Yeah, so Matt, Leverkusen made history on Friday night. 33 games, if I'm not mistaken, now unbeaten. We did, as you said a moment ago, we did have to kind of figure out what those 33 games constituted. And it does, of course, mean all competitions going all the way back to that semi-final defeat to Roma in the Europa League last season. So this is obviously in the German Cup, Europe, and the Bundesliga. And for anyone who maybe missed this game, Matt, it was a game that Bayer Leverkusen won 2-1 against Mainz on paper, pretty straightforward, but the goals kind of came quite, probably fair to say, quite unorthodox means. Would that be a fair way to say?
Yeah, in both cases, and the Mainz goalkeeper Robin Zentner having a pretty big part to play, not just in the two goals, but also on a few other occasions throughout the game. If Leverkusen go on to win this league, the 2-1 win at home to Mainz is not going to be one that stands out as a big moment. Apart from perhaps in the history books in terms of the moment they went 33 games unbeaten. It was also Florian Wirtz's 100th Bundesliga appearance. He became the fourth youngest player to do that. He's 1 day younger at that landmark than Jamal Musiala. And as some people pointed out, I think rightly, had he not been out for the best part of a year with that ACL tear, he'd probably have hit that landmark a lot earlier. And it was also Robert Andrich's 100th game for Bayer Leverkusen, I think, in centre midfield. So quite a lot of records being broken. Granit Xhaka tried to get a record for the quickest Bundesliga goal. Not quite. I think it's 2 or 3 minutes. Took me by surprise. But at first glance, and I'm interested to see what you two think of this, at first glance I thought that Robin Zentner should have been doing better with that. I think Granit Xhaka, I think he has hit it well. I don't think it's right in the top corner, and I wonder if Zentner's been caught cold a little bit there in the third minute.
It's a tricky one, right? Because does he get his hand on it? Trying to recall, because
no, it goes up over the top of him, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, usually if my rule is this is one all my goalkeeper coaches have always taught me: if you get your hand on it, you better stop it, even if it's just your fingertips, because it meant you can reach it, right? Which means you can probably find a better solution to keep the ball out of the net. I do think that's a really tricky shot overall. I do think he had an odd performance, didn't he? Because he had moments of brilliance, and then he had moments like the second goal.
That's the thing.
I think he stumbled once as well.
Yeah, there was some tougher shots that came. Some tough shots that came his way, particularly I think from Xhaka again. I think from Andrich. So Andrich was the winning goal. But there was a couple of other efforts from Granit Xhaka which I thought were hit a lot harder and a lot better, which Robin Zentner dealt with a lot better. He also recovered well from a couple of his own errors, which I think once in the build up. Mainz trying to play it out from the back, which they actually had some success with at times, but on a couple of occasions they also ended up giving the ball away and inviting Leverkusen on. Zentner did get back to save the day there on a couple of occasions, and then I'm sure people would have seen the way the winning goal comes about. It wasn't as if Bayer Leverkusen didn't deserve to come away with 3 points, but obviously the way it came about was pretty unfortunate for Zentner fumbling the ball the way he did.
But you make your own luck, right? Like you force the error, and yes, the goal comes, and it's extremely deserved at that stage. But this is the kind of thing where you put a pressure on the opponent until the opponent breaks, and you don't know how the opponent will eventually break. In this case, it was Zentner making a huge mistake to allow the second goal. But at the end of the day, you look at this result and you say, yeah, that's very well deserved. I'd have thought after this game, I kind of sense and feel that Leverkusen are really just getting by at the moment until Boniface comes back, right? They're like, let's just grind out these results until we get a proper number 9 who can score on a regular basis for us again. And if we get through the stretch until the end of March, right? Because he comes back in April, and we have to remember too, March is going to be shorter because of the international break, right? So I kind of sense at the moment they're just like, oh, if we win all games in March, and then we get Boniface back, we're in a really good place.
It's actually a little bit counterintuitive that they seem to be not struggling, that's the wrong word, but they've become less spectacular against some of the lower teams in the league where they probably are missing that number 9. I think, perhaps paradoxically, you can get away with not having a proper number 9 up front and play with 3 number 10s when you're playing against the likes of Bayern or Stuttgart, because the game is so much more open. You can hit them on the break more. You can combine a lot more. I don't think you're going to get that much joy out of even a Bayern Munich at the moment with just bagging balls into a big centre forward. However, they can make the difference against some of the lesser teams. But yeah, 2 really hard fought wins away at Heidenheim, then at home to Mainz. There was a couple of little observations that I thought regarding Xabi Alonso, and I wouldn't necessarily read too much into it, but I thought he was one of the angriest I've ever seen him. It was partly to do with the referee performance. He was definitely frustrated at at that.
He got a yellow card, didn't he?
He did, yeah, and he was frustrated as well. I think at particularly the hard physical approach that Mainz took to dealing with Florian Wirtz. Sylvain Widmer definitely seemed to have been tasked with taking Wirtz out of the game and went into him pretty hard on a couple of occasions in the first half, which had Xabi Alonso quite upset. However, the booking came on a Leverkusen counter-attack when I think it's Unwini, who has been, seemingly brought down Frimpong. Frimpong definitely thinks he's been brought down.
Yeah. He was brought down. 100%. There was contact there. Yeah,
there was little bit of contact, and going at that pace, and you can see how Frimpong has gone flying. I talked to, well, not necessarily talking to, I overheard a lot of the Mainz analytical staff at half time, all absolutely insisting that it was a dive. Look at Frimpong getting wound up. He's just upset because he's dived and not got a free kick for it. I think there probably was contact at that pace, but yeah, that's what got him booked for complaining. It's also what got Xabi Alonso booked for complaining. Didn't stop Alonso from legging it over to the referee at half time and having to go at him on the pitch and walking off with him. So yeah, one of the more agitated that I've seen Xabi Alonso. Again, I wouldn't read too much into it. I'm not suggesting that the pressure's getting to them or anything like that, but just, I just thought it was interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, if he's getting frustrated at cynical challenge against Mainz, God help him when they come up against Cologne next weekend in the derby, particularly when it comes to tackles on Florian Wirtz, who, as listeners will probably know, isn't exactly well received, shall we say, by Cologne fans. Obviously, a former academy player.
It was actually against Cologne, wasn't it, that he tore his ACL? I mean, not necessarily from a bad tackle, but that was.
I think there was a bad one I think there was a bad tackle in the 3-0 win at the start of the season as well, if I'm not mistaken. That got some news, maybe. Don't know. But yeah, no, it's really fascinating how Leverkusen are kind of rumbling on. Their XG was actually really low in this game. It was 1.2, I think I saw. Mainz's wasn't far off that themselves, and I mean, I'm kind of okay with the goalkeeper for the first goal. You can kind of see he almost kind of steps back, thinking, "Oh, that's going over," and then just kind of dips in. And I can see, and when you see it from the second angle, like from the kind of linesman's view, you really do see how it just kind of dips just under the crossbar. Obviously, the second goal is just an absolute howler, and that alone is really what kind of gave Leverkusen all 3 points here, I suppose. Now, it was only the 70th minute, so they had like an extra, 20, 25 minutes to obviously turn it around. But
the game was over.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, at that point, yeah, and of course, Mainz get a red card. But if that, it's a kind of interesting what if, and as you guys talk about how they are just kind of doing enough to get by these games. And, Derby aside, they've got Cologne next, which you'd expect them to do something similar in. Wolfsburg, who haven't exactly been aren't exactly the Harlem Globetrotters when it comes to scoring goals. Freiburg, who've been struggling. Hoffenheim before that, who this weekend's result aside have been in poor form, and then they've got Union Berlin, Werder Bremen, Dortmund and Stuttgart. But by that point, that kind of stretch to the top of the table may have increased. Who knows? So, as you said, Manu, they're just kind of maybe just biding time until they can bring Boniface back, because if you actually look at the match winners in that squad, the thing that really intrigues me about Leverkusen is that perhaps Jonas Hoffmann's a perfect example of this, where so many of these players who on paper are good individual players, they've just kind of slotted into kind of almost like supporting roles for Wirtz this season, where Hoffman just does so much running for him. Adley just does so much running for him. Obviously the two white players just play off him tremendously well. But it also means that if Wirtz isn't the guy scoring the goals or setting up the goals, it's not like someone like Klose can exactly step in and win the game for them, is it?
Yeah, I mean, just it's interesting. I just looked at the match calendar here, and they have 3 games until the international break, right? And then in those 3 games, because you said they were rumbling on, let me just recap this here. Obviously, they have Köln next week, which I think is actually going to be a pretty tricky game. Then they have Wolfsburg on a Sunday. Then they have Freiburg in Freiburg on a Sunday. Lots of Sunday games, obviously, because of the Europa League fixtures, right? Then they have essentially 2 weeks off because of the international break. And then after the international break, they have Hoffenheim. And then I actually expect Boniface to be back at maybe as early as like the Union Berlin game, right? Because the projection was April. So you really need to just get through these next 3 games to be in a really good position. And you're right, look, attacking wise, it's going to be about Florian Wirtz and the way he carries the team, and maybe hopefully get Patrick Schick going in one way or another. But I don't know, I just get the sense they're just grinding out results at the moment. And if they get to the international break with this 8-point gap, maybe 11 or 10 points, who knows? So let it be down to 5. You're in a really good place. I'm just repeating myself here, but I think you're in a really good place.